Welcome everybody. As you guys know, we're meeting with Ashira Darwish, one of the producers of Where Olive Trees Weep, and I'm going to open up the floor for her to begin the session.
Salam alaikum. Salam, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time to watch the documentary. So I'm the producer of the film, and I'm also one of the main characters in the documentary. And just to give you some background, I am half Palestinian, half Egyptian. Um, I was born in Cyprus and moved to Palestine when I was 2 to 3 years old. I lived most of my life in Palestine, except when I was kicked out or exiled for for different reasons. I studied journalism, and I studied for in the university in Birzeit University until the Second Intifada, during the Second Intifada, and then I was kicked out for the first time. That one was by my mother. I was kicked out to Cyprus, where I finished my studies. And the main reason my mom kicked me out was because I was very politically active in university, and she was worried for my safety at some point. And after that, I went back to Palestine after I graduated broadcast journalism, worked with Palestine TV. I had a TV show with Palestine TV, and I also did a reality TV show called Sleepless in Gaza and Jerusalem. It's the only Palestinian reality TV show which is still on YouTube until this day, to my regret. Um, and after that, I worked with different. I worked for about 15 years in broadcast journalism, and in around 2011 2012 I was injured. I was active in the popular resistance movement, and I was in a protest in Nabi Saleh where I was lynched by Israeli soldiers and my neck was broken, and I was paralyzed. At that time I was working with the BBC, and the main part of the injury was the whole Western diagnosis that I will be paralyzed for the rest of my life and that the spine can never be fixed. And I refused the diagnosis, and I started looking for other options and modalities for healing from my ancestry, from my background, also everything that I found on YouTube. And alhamdulillah, the first thing I went back to is to reconnect with the divine and ask for help from God. And it arrived in so many different ways. And alhamdulillah, I was able to go back to walking. And after that, I left BBC and I went to work with Human Rights Watch as a researcher. And after that, I worked with Amnesty International, and then I was targeted by the Palestinian Authority for my work on exposing the Palestinian Authority's complicity with the Israeli authorities, torture in the Palestinian prisons, and extrajudicial killings. And that forced me out of the country again, this time because I was under threat and my life was under threat. And I then decided when I was in London, that I would rather quit working with the Amnesty and any human rights organization for my ability to go back to Palestine. So I signed an agreement with the Palestinian Authority that they would remove the self-harm against me. And I was granted an amnesty that would allow me to go back to the country on the condition that I'm not allowed to work, write, journalism, any human rights work, anything that has to do with the authorities, I'm not allowed to do. And at that point, I had already been on a very long journey since my first injury in holistic healing and in mental healing as well. And I felt that this is a signal that I needed to leave that life of journalism and media and enter a new world. And I wanted to share my knowledge about healing and about the different modalities available, because most of the modalities, whether be it for healing physically or from also the trauma that I had endured over the years, none of it was possible with the Western Western medicine and Western therapy. And we don't have any of that available in Palestine. I was always doing my research on YouTube, and I had the privilege to be able to travel. So I went to Peru, I went to India. I was able to find so many teachers that supported my journey. And I wanted to share that with my Palestinians, my fellow Palestinians. And wanted to start with children who were imprisoned and released from prison, because that's the one point in my life that was changed from that experience of detention. And yeah, I started with children, and I started seeing the effect and learning from them. So it was a learning experience for me to be around the children and to start supporting them in that way. And also, they were my best teachers in seeing what works on our bodies, what modalities work for us, what modalities don't work for us, and also seeing the resilience that was innate in the Palestinians, seeing also mood in children who come from very strong communities and tribal communities versus children who come from the cities and places where there is much more isolation. Um, and yeah, since then, I created the project Catharsis Holistic Healing, and I've been sharing my work. We were lucky enough and blessed to be able to get the support of Dr. Gabor Mate, who came to Palestine on my invitation, and we did a workshop and a conference for trauma therapy. And also, we were sent this beautiful angel called Cap Temple, and she taught me and a group of the Catharsis volunteers emotional freedom technique, coaching, NLP. And she's still, until today, very, very instrumental in our ability to do the work. And also Zahira Maus, who's a dance therapist who came to Palestine. And we started working in 2008. We expanded to work in Gaza. And in Gaza, we were working with in partnership with the center, NOAA Center for Culture and Arts, and we were able to support the children there. Of course, everything was up until the genocide, and since the genocide escalated, we've been providing therapy free for Palestinians and Palestinians inside Palestine and in diaspora and international activists in support of the Palestinians, and we've been providing them liberation therapy, which works on us or modalities that are at least the therapists themselves are aware and supportive of the Palestinian cause and understand what is going on. And now we also work in Egypt and in Gaza to provide support. And the film follows this journey, and it follows also it shows what occupation has been for us since prior to this October 7th. And it shows that life did not start there for the Palestinians, that even we filmed this 2 years before. And you can see the horrors of normal day life under occupation, from house demolitions to confiscation of land, to confiscation of water resources, to imprisonment, torture in prison. And yeah, we just wanted this film to be to give people a mirror into our lives before, and to also move people into action and solidarity with Palestine.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And the floor is open for questions. We did have a screening of this film last Friday in Elmhurst, and I am sure some people have questions. Just raise your hand and we'll pick on you to ask your question. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Reverend. You're on mute.
Thank you. How many times do we have that? You're on mute. Thank you so much for the background. And this isn't going to be a question about the film. It's going to be a little bit more about the modalities, the healing modalities, and the trauma-informed work that you do. And I'm wondering if you could say more about what that work looks like. I'm familiar with Dr. Gabor Mate's work and trauma-informed work. And I'm wondering if you would want to say a little bit more about the modalities. I was impressed in the film, let me say this first, with how you took charge of your healing, how you you were you transformed the outcome when it was expected for you to be continually impaired, right? And I wanted to hear more about the modalities you use and how that's experienced in different populations, if you don't mind.
Thank you. So the modalities that I've been using were all dependent on the stages. So there's difference between when I was paralyzed and what I used then the modalities that I used afterwards to deal with problems such as addiction, mental complex continuous PTSD. But yeah, to say about the paralysis, I think one of the reasons why I had the ability to stand and refuse the diagnosis by the Western medicine is because I've had a long experience with it with my sister who suffered from lupus. And it was always closed doors with the doctors. It was like, always, she can't do this. Oh, she can't do that. It took them 2 years to find a real diagnosis. They diagnosed her with a million things before they got to the lupus. And just seeing how inadequate and that there's never any remedy that is final in a way, and they love giving pills. And also, I at the same time that I got injured, my best friend's mother was battling cancer, and she went the alternative route. She didn't listen to the doctors who told her you have a few months to live, and she also started using alternative modalities. So I had some people around me who spoke in this language, and I was like, if Lutfiya can do this, then I can also fight. You know, I don't have to accept this diagnosis. And I started looking for all the different ways of modalities that were available. I had read The Secret before. My mom gave it to me, and I was like, okay, maybe this is it. And I found the cases inside who had spinal injuries and how they healed. I found out about the gratitude rocks, and doing tasbih and gratitude was one of the main things that I was doing the whole time. And I felt immediately that just the moment that I accepted the fact that there was another power that was higher than me that can support me at this point, everything changed. Because I had been for years separated from my religion, separated from my faith, let's say, not religion. And it was due to my upbringing, and it was due to the way that religion was taught to us in school, that I was more of an anti-Muslim than people in the West, because I was studied in a Quaker school. I was brought up in an environment that that the teachers themselves were feeding us this fear narrative that everything around God, everything that has to do with God is about punishment and crime. And it was very much similar to the Israeli authority system. And it was like, okay, so this is the occupation and this is the same as the occupation. I'm fighting you both. I don't want any of it. And it was only when I started, and before that, as a child, I had these experiences where I used to tell my family I can speak to God, and he's not like you say he is. And there's an emotion of love the moment that I think of the divine, and that's the only thing that I get. There's this like well of love, and everything that I'm taught doesn't work. And when I got the diagnosis, that was the first thing I was like, I know you're there. We've been here. And this is me asking for help. And of course, I went into bowing and asking for the help, and it was immediate. As if it was never gone, this light that's always there, and connection. And I felt that, okay, now that I have the support of the divine, then nothing can beat me. And I can do anything. I can walk, because at least in religion there's miracles, And there's no. There's no end to what you can ask God for. And it's just a well of prayers, right? And I found the well of prayers, and I was like, okay, at least there's hope, there's faith, and I can at least change something. Whereas the Western medicine was khalas, your body is cut, your spine is 70% cut, you're done. You're not gonna walk again. I went to so many doctors, and they said exactly the same thing, from Palestinians to Israelis to Jordanians. Everybody said the same. I was like, okay, you don't know. And yeah, so I just moved in the waves where which I was taken from changing my diet, from the way that from the way that I was taking medication. I knew immediately that the first thing, I don't know where this is where I also believe that you have knowledge beyond the body that is there and accessible to you. When you ask, you receive it. And the only thing you need to do is to ask, and it comes. And when I asked, it was raining on me. It was like, okay, stop this medication, don't take the Lyrica. And I would read like most of the medication they would give you is to numb your pain. And I was like, why would I numb the pain if I don't, if the only thing I need right now is to feel my body, and I don't want to lose the last bit of pain. So I stopped their medication. I went to the Attarin in the old city of Jerusalem in Ramallah, and I asked, Attarin is the herbalists. And I asked what do they use for herbs to calm the pain. My friend's mother was using turmeric, so I started making a turmeric drink and adding things to it. And eventually, I wasn't in need of any any painkillers. And every time I would get the pain, I would sit and be like, Alhamdulillah. I would get my rocks and be like, Alhamdulillah, I can feel the pain. Alhamdulillah, I can feel this, because this pain means that I have still sensations. I love these sensations. Please bring more sensations. And the pain would go and it will become a bliss. And that was the main thing. I also used a lot of positive affirmations, drawing, visualizing, imagining. And I had been very blessed with ADHD because my brain is visual. So I can sit and visualize my spine healing. I can sit and visualize energy going through my body. And that's basically how it worked. With my mental health, it was much harder. It's a whole different ballgame. Like, I found physically healing from an injury, from paralysis, was so much easier than dealing with addiction, so much easier dealing with my traumas. And I have to say that one very important point in my physical healing was forgiving the commander, the Israeli soldier who broke my neck. And it was this is a point where me and Dr. Gaber always don't see eye to eye, because he's like, forgiveness does not connect with the it's not dependent. Your healing is not dependent on the forgiveness. And for me, it was completely the opposite. It was very dependent on that, because he was occupying my brain. It wasn't forgiving him so that he can live his life, or so that there was anything between me and him, but it was for me to release him from my brain, so that I can have the clarity to sit and meditate, so I can have the clarity to sit and pray in joy rather than in anger and in frustration. Instead of praying for him to be to be burned in hell and for his kids to be paralyzed, I started praying for my own healing. So that was a point that also helped me in release. With the mental health, as I said, it was much more difficult. I went to Peru, I did ayahuasca. That was very important for me, because it also brought that connection with the divine into a physical matter. It wasn't just a visual, a sensory effect. And then I also got into Sufism, because I started feeling the reconnection between me and Islam, and I started searching for the gateway, and I automatically started whirling in my house. And my mother comes from a lineage of Sufis. So I blame my mother's lineage, that they basically gave me the codes. And when I started doing the Sufi healing, the whirling, I didn't even identify it as Sufi. I was just spinning in the house. My fear went away. I was able to sit and focus. My ADHD was no longer as encapsulating, and things started to change in my brain. And that was when I started noticing that I need to do more mental health and healing.
Thank you for that. We have Samir with his hand up. Go ahead, Samir.
Yeah, thank you. It's fascinating, Ashira, to hear you in person and to watch your documentary. I love documentaries. I watch more documentaries in my life than I watch normal movies because I don't believe in this fictional world. What, by the way, maybe on a side conversation, I work for a company that we deal with pain management, completely different from drugs. It's a new innovation. I don't want to take time, but if you're interested to know about the company I work for, we can exchange some information. But I was in charge of playing the documentary in our screening. Thursday night, when I was able to download the movie, I downloaded it and I wanted to test it, make sure it's working, no issues. And I told the story to many of those group on the group today, and I downloaded the movie on Thursday night. We were showing it on Friday. It was 12 midnight, and I start playing the movie. And I was working a little bit on the side, and it's playing on my second computer, just making sure it's working. And 12:05, it's still playing, and I couldn't work. And I'm like listening to you, and I'm like, something is happening here when listening and watching. It's like a magnet. And I stopped working. I start watching it, and I'm watching it, and I'm watching it, and it's 2 a.m. and I need to wake up 6 in the morning on Friday. And I'm like, I couldn't sleep. That's what he did, at least to me. I couldn't sleep, and I had to watch it again on Friday. I watched it twice in 24 hours, and in less than 24 hours. And I can't tell you, I haven't watched, I mean, I watched the documentary on Sabra and Shatila, which is completely different thing. It's devastating, but to watch it the way you did it, it touched a lot of people's heart. When I was in the screen, I was watching people, I saw people crying. I mean, they were weeping. So how did you do that? I mean, I know the answer, but I want to hear from you. How did you do that? What made you deliver this message so close to the heart and so real? This is one of the few times I'm watching a documentary and it's real. I am living it with you. That's kind of, just kind of more of an admiration to your work. Second, shifting a little bit here, the emotions. What is your next move? What is your next? Because now I'm want part two of this because you did this in 2022. So like, okay, how can you top it? So that's kind of my question.
Thank you. Well, first, I didn't do it. Zaya and Maurizio did it, the directors. And they are brilliant. Zaya sees poetry, and she made the images come to life with the music, with her just it felt like poetry. When I also saw it, I was like, oh my God, how can you make something so beautiful, something so tragic look so beautiful, and so mesmerizing, and so it's their eye, it's the way that they like to tell the stories, and if you see their other films, they're also very gripping. And right now they're working on another project, which was the original project, which is a full documentary on intergenerational trauma. And Palestine is part of that, but it's intergenerational trauma relating to colonialism. So they've been around the world, and you see the stories and how it's very similar between us, between racism in America and the African Americans, what has been done to the natives here, what's been done to the natives in New Zealand, Australia, and you go to Africa and you look at it and it just brings it all into one picture. And you understand that it's a global instrument of this of destruction that is after us, which is powerful also because you understand how much magic and beauty you can see in the healing of all of these people. And you can see how our essence as humans is so beautiful and so pure, and how destructive these instruments are to take away the reality in order to sell it in a Coca-Cola bottle, and to create this American dream and this mirage of life in the material, so that people are just enslaved to this instrument of money, and they've turned the world into that. And I feel that this documentary that's coming is going to be also reshaping people's minds about our interconnectedness on this earth, and bringing it alive very much to the surface, that it's one struggle. If you're struggling for Palestine, if you're struggling for the indigenous around this earth, you're struggling for all of us to be able to relive in a place where it's harmonious, on an earth where there is love, and that is the main language. And love means the harmony between the human, between the earth, this connection that we have. And yeah, so that's the next step for Zaya and Maurizio. For me, the next step is to write a book. I'm in the process now. And inshallah it will be coming out soon, because I feel also that I really want people to have it in their hands. Just directions on how you can do what I did, because it's not it's not rocket science, and it's something doable, and I want it to be accessible. I want people to know that they have the same codes that I have. They have the same exact power that I have. And anybody who has an ailment, anybody who has a sickness or has suffered from trauma, there's a way out, and the way out is the way within. So yeah, inshallah, that would be the next step.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Rita, please go ahead. And then Nizam, you're after Rita. Go ahead, Rita.
Yes, hi. Thank you so much, Ashira, for taking the time out of your schedule to talk with us. Such a beautiful documentary. I saw it twice, once with our group in Elmhurst and then once on my own. Very moving, very potent. So thank you again for that. So I also consider myself an activist. I have a background in medicine. So I was trained in Western medicine. I'm an integrative medicine physician, though. And so I did training in the holistic arts. And so, I'm also a Reiki master, and I'm an astrologer, and
You should volunteer with us. What are you talking?
What's that?
You should volunteer with us.
So this is kind of one of my questions actually for you is like, what can I do? And I'd love to brainstorm with you. I'd love to connect with you further, even outside of this, if you are up for that. Like to just like kind of where can I, channel my efforts, because I so want to be involved. I so want to work in this arena, but bringing in all of these other pieces that I mentioned. So like you talk about going to Peru. I'm thinking about going to Peru. I haven't tried ayahuasca yet, and that's sort of on my list of things to do. That's what I'm looking at doing next. And so, yeah, I'd love some, maybe to brainstorm with you or talk with you or get some guidance or a referral of like, yeah, like how do I, channel because, I'm enraged, I'm grief stricken, just like all of us are. And like, I want to channel that into like some productive effort and some, constructive efforts. I'd love some guidance or whatever you could offer. Kind of directing me or other people who are interested also.
Wonderful, thank you. So first, you can definitely volunteer with Catharsis, and we're looking always for people who are active, who are aware, who are therapists, who can support either Palestinians or also the other international activists who are active. And it's always that when you are in service and when you are in action, that the trauma doesn't actually penetrate you, but you're actually able to transmute that energy into healing. For yourself and for the other people that you're in service with. So that's the first thing. And we're also planning to do trainings for therapists who want to work in holistic approaches, and also specifically to work with people who deal with continuous trauma. So that's also something that I'm in the process of writing the curriculum for and planning. And hopefully we'll have teachers like Dr. Gabor, like Steve Forges, who will come in and also give us some information on how to navigate the mental first aid in a holistic kind of approach, rather than the Western kind of approach. So definitely there's more of that to come. And it's always I post things either on my social media or on the website, and that's Instagram, it's Prem Ashira, Prem Ashira, and on the website it's Ashira Prem Rachina. Sorry. I can also
Could you
post
say that? Yeah, you could say that again. Yeah,
it's
or
much
post
easier.
that.
Put it in the chat. Yeah, put it
Yeah,
in the
putting
chat.
it in the chat.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to look at that and connect with you further as well. Is that what's the best way to kind of continue the conversation?
My email's on the website, so just email me
Okay.
from the website.
Okay, and what's the website again?
I just posted it. You can see
Okay.
She put it in the chat.
Okay, awesome. I'll take a look at that.
that. Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Rita.
thank you so much. It was great meeting you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nizam, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm so excited and fascinated by your background and by your journey that you have, Ashira, that you have really talked to us about your healing, the journey of healing, which all of us encounter in our life journey, a need for healing one way or the other in our search for our existence and the reasons behind our existence. So I was going to say initially, forget about discussing the movie, but I'm sure the movie is very, very, learning about your personality. The movie must be, I haven't had an opportunity to see it, but I would love to see it, inshallah, very soon. But yeah, I'm very excited about your life's journey, the Sufism that you talked about. I have read the book قواعد العشق الأربعين ابن الرومي. And it's really fascinating. I have really explored many religious and life point of views, and opened my minds and enriched my values in this life. And you have extensive, apparently, something that helped you in really recovering. You have reached deep down inside and to other ways, and it sounds like Sufism was one of the ways. I'm really curious about that. So I really applaud you for making this movie, and hopefully we'll have a chance to see it. But also, I think we should have another session just to discuss your healing process. That would be fascinating. But I mean, it sounds like most of us are asking about, what you have done, and it's amazing the process that you have. For an Israeli soldier to break your neck and for you to survive that and recover and become more productive. That's really amazing and fascinating. So thank you for sharing that with us. And that's amazing to learn more about you. I don't know if there is a chance for you to discuss with us or tell us a little bit about the movie. I feel very bad that I didn't have a chance to see it, but by the name, apparently it's discussing the story of Palestinians, which we know it by heart. I lived it. I lived in Palestine until I was the age of 19. So there is a showing of this movie. I think this is coming next Friday or something.
This Friday in Moraine Valley.
Moraine Valley. So yeah, hopefully I'll make sure to go and attend it. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we should have another session just to talk about your healing journey.
Inshallah, we can do that.
If she's open to it, yeah, we can plan something. But I do have a question from the day of the event, which may give Nizam a little more idea of the film. Somebody said, can you put this film in context and tell us why you decided to make it?
Okay, so the film, as I said, was filmed 2 years ago when and it followed the journey of Dr. Gabor when he arrived in Palestine, and we did the conference for trauma therapy, and we work with former child prisoners and women prisoners. So they were the main target, and the idea was that this film is going to be part of the intergenerational trauma affected by colonialism, which I spoke about. And then when October 7th happened, immediately Zion Maurizio reached out and they're like, listen, we think that Palestine should be a movie on its own. And especially right now, this is how we can participate in awakening people to what is going on. And I said, okay. I didn't realize that I was going to be one of the main characters at that time. And hence I said a very strong okay. And then I kind of backtracked a little bit when I realized it, because it meant that I had to leave Palestine because of the risk of arrest and harassment for me and my family, because As I said, I wasn't really supposed to be doing any work. And I was doing everything very, very quietly until the exposure, of course, in this film. And yeah, so the idea was to show the world and to show people what happened, what our lives were like before October 7th. Because now if we make a film, it'll just be images of horror from the genocide and from what is happening in Gaza. But people don't understand that this was our life. In Gaza, they've experienced the war in 2014, the war in 2016. They've been under bombardment. Most of the children, they count their days and their lives by how many wars they have survived in Gaza. And in the West Bank, it's by how many intifadas you've survived and where you participated. So it's very important to show the history of what was going on, and to show it through the lens of also someone like Dr. Gabor with a trauma lens, and to look at what this means for the people and the cycle that trauma brings people into, and the Jewish trauma also, how it has exaggerated the situation for the Palestinians and who's paying for the European trauma. So yeah, that was it. And if I want to say something also to Nizam about the Sufism, I'd love to come back and speak more about it. We can see how we can arrange that. But usually if I want to do that, I would rather we do it face to face, because then you can actually learn how to whirl. And I feel that that is one of the most important things, to understand physically and to experience things physically, because I do somatic work. But yeah, the Sufi whirling, when I started, I just had such a big fear after I started walking. I was terrified that something is gonna hit me. All the time I felt so vulnerable and scared that I wouldn't get into cars, I wouldn't leave the house, because I thought that my like everything felt so fragile that I can be broken again. And as I said, I have ADHD, so it was very hard for me to sit down. So I needed something to keep me moving, and I don't know how. I just started. I woke up and I started whirling in the house. And even though it's far more dangerous than going into the car, because any moment you could fall and then I could have broken my neck again, somehow it felt so safe. And I started doing it once, then every night, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And immediately when I did it, the feeling was of being carried out of my body.
Wow.
And floating above the body. So I was no longer this body that was broken or paralyzed or still in recovery. I wasn't afraid of anything, and I merged into a world which had that same sensation of divine love. And I would come back so much calmer, so much more grateful. And every time I would whirl, I would feel I would feel you would feel how big and expansive the world is, and how non-physical it is, and how much the physical is nothing. And once you realize that the physical is nothing, then you can experience life with so much more joy and ease, because you know that you are much bigger, you belong to somewhere else, and you come back to the body, and you start doing the theater, you start doing the play, you live through the play. But with always this consciousness that there's something much bigger. And then the material, the clothes, the life that I used to live started chattering, one after the other. Things started falling, as if they were old skin that I was shedding, and that no longer meant anything to me. And also in terms of people, family, everything that was no longer in connection with the divine and no longer in the same path does not matter. And this is where you see people who are like in the love of the divine, just go, leave everything and go to a mountain, and follow that calling to just stay and be in the love of the divine, because it's more pure and more beautiful than anything. And I didn't get that. I tried so hard to become like a monk, to leave my life and to live a life of isolation or meditation. But every time I would do that, it was immediate that I would feel a calling for something else. that I would feel that I need to do something on this earth, that I am here for this purpose. And they would bring me back into the body, and it's like, who are you? You're here. Just do the things that you have to do right here. You're gonna go to that space, but now you're here, and there's work to be done. And and then you have taslim, which is surrendering to where God wants you and where God takes you, and the journey. And every time that there's a hurdle, another one, like this major one of the genocide, and having to take my 2 kids and carry them across the seas to come to America. I keep telling God, I'm like, okay, alhamdulillah, you brought me here, alhamdulillah for safety. I'm gonna respect that you brought me here, and whatever this journey brings, because the human in me does not want to be here. The human in me wants to be home. The human in me wants to be in Palestine. The human in me wants to be in resistance, and to be with my people. And then there's this part which keeps pulling me where I'm right now, and I'm like, okay, inshallah, God will open the gates, and يعني, subhanallah, he keeps opening the gates. I keep meeting people. I keep seeing the change that I'm able to do here. And I'm like, okay, I'll accept this part of the journey, and surrender to it.
Resistance can be in anywhere. I mean, this is what we are doing. All is resistance for humanity. Really, that's definitely it's a great work that you're doing, and we are all helping as much as we can. I'm gonna leave it to Samer and Sausan to really arrange with you an in-person meeting, if you will, to really discuss this in detail and to ask more questions, and maybe share our experiences and reflect with you on how we can approach things.
Yeah.
If I can sneak a quick question, any plans, Ashira, to come to Chicago in the future?
Yes, it was 2 days ago. I met family connections who live in Chicago, and they're like, you have to come to Chicago عشان قعدك عنا ونعطيك. I'm like, I need to come to Chicago. I just have to figure out how and when to do it, because I know also that most of the Palestinians are there, so I would like to go and be of service. So inshallah,
we're gonna have a fight of who wants to have you hosted.
Hey, I live in Little Palestine, so she comes here.
Live in the western suburbs.
You're welcome to come to Little Palestine. We'll have a party here.
Ashira, you're not in Chicago, I take it.
لا أنا هلا بريتشموند, California.
California, I see. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice. No, this is a very enlightening conversation, and I did read the book Nizam mentioned, but I read it in English, The 40 Languages of Love, and it talks a lot about Sufism, and it was very deep, makes you think, very. And this documentary is very powerful, which shows you the experiences, and you are making a difference, Ashira, with this film, because your emotions also came out in the film, and your experience, and somebody like me who lived under the occupation remembered some of these things when I used to go to school, and you had the army everywhere. And like Samer said, you can tell in the room, even those who are still learning about the Palestinian struggle were very moved by this movie, and tears in their eyes, and they couldn't believe what Palestinians have been going through, because as we all know, propaganda machine, and not everybody knew the reality. So I have a question here from somebody who was there. They said that often the relationship between Israel and Palestine is expressed as complicated. What would you tell someone if they would remark to you the history is too complicated to understand?
It's the most simple history lesson. It's 101 colonization, 101 white supremacy. That's the only thing. It's exactly, it's the last colonial empire that supports Israel to stay where it is. And it only takes a person a few minutes to look at what Palestine was prior to 1948 and what Palestine is today, to understand where these refugees came from, how they arrived in Palestine, and to also understand that before 1948, we had no problem with them living with us. We had no problem with the Jews. We had no problem with the Christians. It was a relationship of love between Abrahamic brothers living on the same land, which they called home and sacred land. The only issue and problem started and began when the Zionists started arriving, and even the Jews who were in Palestine refused the Zionists who were arriving because they weren't refugees arriving for sanctuary in Palestine. They were armed to their teeth and they were coming after each and every Palestinian, massacring from Tantura to Deir Yassin to all over the land, to the death march in Lod. These were not refugees. These were colonialists coming to take over the land, and the people who pushed them into this colonial project are the anti-Semites who want to get rid of them. And until today, the Americans and the Europeans do not want the Jews in their land, and they want them situated in Palestine because that sends them away from their borders. And it's the same anti-Semitic agenda that fuels this to continue and fuels their rejection of the Jews, and also this evangelical dream of the Christ coming coming in order to kill all the Jews. So they don't mind the killing of all the Jews. They want them all dead, but they want it to happen in Palestine so the Christ can return. It's all based on an anti-Semitic agenda by white people who put it together. And we, the people who welcomed the Jewish refugees in our houses, in our neighborhoods prior to 1948, have to pay the price with our lives. And we have become the refugees scattered around the world. It's not complicated. It's a one-sided relationship, and it's a very narcissistic relationship. If I can describe it with one word, I would say the relationship between us is narcissistic abuse, which Israel has towards us.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? I'm looking at the list. Oh, somebody had typed a question. Hold on. Okay, somebody's saying they can hardly formulate a thoughtful question, but they keep landing on the same conclusion. But watching this political landscape, how else can we stand in solidarity with our political action? What is actually effective? Some who live in red states don't have the luxury to vote Green Party. Okay.
Red
That was
state,
her.
that is the
A
Republican?
Republican, yeah.
Vote Republican. Vote for Republicans. Don't vote for the Democrats if it is under any circumstances. People say, oh, Trump, what is he going to do? I don't care what Trump does. I don't care what Trump does. What I know is what Biden did and what Harris did, and the 240 Palestinian dead bodies that you will vote for if you put a vote for the Democrats. If you are not in a state where you can vote Green, if you're not in a state where you can definitely still write the names of Jill Stein, and you can still write the names of Cornell. Just don't vote Democrat. They need to be punished for what they have done. And if the vote is a punishment, then that is the least of it. If you vote for them, it's a vote for the genocide. It's the vote to okay everything that they have done to us and to our people. They are the ones that sent the bombs. It's not Trump that sent the bombs. If it was Trump and he was responsible, then we would say the same thing. Don't vote for him. And I understand he's a white supremacist as well. He's everything that we don't stand for. But at the same time, he does not want his money to be American money to go to foreign countries. He will not pay Israel as much money as the Biden administration has. And historically, under the Democrats, we have been paying the price. So 4 years under Trump, you can survive it. It will be at least without the genocide of our people.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, what's the name of the book that you keep referring to, please?
Oh, Okay, I'll get that. There's a question then from the audience when we did the screening. They said they're asking. I'll get you the book, Sue. 1 second. They're asking, who do you think is the hope for Palestine? And I think you alluded to this a little bit in the film where you said we can free ourselves, just stop sending the money. You can like go further on that. I think that's what they're probably asking.
Our
Yeah.
hope is in our people. That's where
Yeah.
we have hope. We have hope in the people who are fighting and resisting and still resilient on their land. We have hope in our sumud and our people's ability to withstand and withhold and stay in community and fight,
Yeah.
defend their ability to survive on that land. And our hope is in our brothers and sisters who are humans, who stand against the genocide. Anyone who stands against the genocide and is human enough to see the situation for what it is our ally, is our voice. And we believe that there's so much more people waking up. There's so many people who, if it wasn't for the people who marched, if it wasn't for the student encampments, if it wasn't for the people who wrote letters, Israel would have wiped the last Palestinian off of the land of Gaza. So each and every person who spoke out is part responsible for our liberation. And we believe, we have faith, alhamdulillah, that we are closer to liberation than we ever were. And yeah, just don't stop being in action, and evil will fall.
That's true. That's true. I'm just looking here because we had quite a few questions from that night.
I have
There's
to leave in a little bit.
when do you need to leave? Yeah, tell me. Yeah,
We
because
have a brief- have a
we
brief
allotted to
circle.
like 7:30, but you tell us when you have to go.
We have a grief circle. I just need to make sure when I'm supposed to be in the
Yeah,
grief.
tell us when you need to be there. I think we covered all the questions.
Oh, do you have, how many questions do you have? Just so
I think there's just one more here from the day of the session. Yeah, because some of these you already touched on, so I'm not even going to ask them.
7:15. Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah.
have about 10 more minutes.
Okay, one question someone was asking that while you were making this documentary, is there anything that resonated with you the most and stays with you?
Just through the filming?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I was very much in the run for the managing the conference. So I wasn't able to do much. I really enjoyed being in doing the whirling and singing in the Church of Holy Sepulchre. That was one place which was very strong for me. I every time I watch the film, I kind of see the stories we didn't add. So I always miss the story of Malak al-Ghalid, who's a beautiful young Palestinian woman who was the youngest child to be arrested by Israel. And she was sentenced to 2 years in prison, and she's now a beautiful lawyer. She just graduated recently.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah, but we had to remove her story to protect her.
Okay.
But yeah, that's one story that I always see the pictures of us in her house, and we can't tell her story.
Oh, well, yeah, sometimes you have to be careful.
Yeah.
If we don't have any more questions, I know you have to go do something, but we're honored that you made the time to come talk to us. I can't say enough good things about the documentary. I watched it twice, and both times it just, touches you. It's very powerful, and everybody needs to see it to understand what the Palestinians have been going through. Thank you so much, and we'll stay connected. We'll do another one, and maybe we can bring you here for another screening where you can talk to the audience in person.
Inshallah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you again.
Thank
It's
you,
a pleasure to
Ashira.
meet
Thank you
in
very
person.
much.
Yep.
Oh, Esther. Okay, my kids are arriving.
Okay, go see your kids. Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everybody, for coming. Thank you.